Good afternoon, friends. It's a pleasure to have with us Her Excellency Grace Naledi Pandor, the Minister for International Relations and Cooperation from the Republic of South Africa, on this Facebook Live conversation at the Raisina Dialogue. Your Excellency, for me, South Africa is very close to my heart. It's a country in which I spent 3 wonderful years as Consul General in Johannesburg, and we really have some of our fondest memories and some of our closest friends in South Africa. Our countries would never begin a conversation without recalling the wonderful legacy of Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela. And here in 2020, there's occasionally a feeling that perhaps we've drifted a little bit away from that noble legacy that both our countries inherited. I don't know what you would feel about that.
Well, good afternoon, and it's indeed a great pleasure to have the opportunity to participate in this discussion. I think Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela taught us very important principles of respect for human rights, as well as the fact that you must struggle in order to achieve a whole host of positive ends. I don't think those lessons have been forgotten. For us, the ideals of Nelson Mandela were incorporated into the new constitution of South Africa, and they serve as the driver toward the goal of building a very new post-apartheid South Africa. So those ideals of democracy, of non-racialism, of non-sexism, and a fully united country still form a core part of what we seek to achieve. As well as Mahatma Gandhi, his memory lives on in South Africa. As we celebrate Nelson Mandela, we celebrate Mahatma Gandhi, and the two unite in a very beautiful fashion. Two countries very distant from each other, but with an amazing shared history. So I don't believe that those ideals are lost. I think from time to time there are missteps, and when we lose our way, the people are there to remind us, as happens on the streets in South Africa and as is happening on the streets in India.
You're absolutely right. It's the legacy that remains, and they remain a beacon, not just for our countries, for many others around the world. But talking about the world, we also seem to be losing something else which was important, which was the commitment to a multilateral global arena. And we see a degree of unilateralism creeping into various actions, and I wanted to see what South Africa's take on that is.
Well, I think that India is one of the oldest and perhaps the most enduring modern democracies in our world, with a very large world population, a large economy, and primarily an educated nation, despite many pockets of poverty in the country, just as with us. And so what I think is important for us to do is we must use countries such as India as a beacon of democracy, of internationalism, of respect for international law, and the idea that there can be no one power that seeks to dominate the whole world. So we have to have international institutions that uphold multilateral ideas and ideals. And it is countries with the calling power of India, with the economy of the size of India, the population of that weight, who have to lead the way in challenging any attempt at unipolarity and the dominance of one nation in the world, however economically powerful. I believe that we have to fight for multilateralism because it's the only way in which all of us enjoy protection. If we allow one country to believe that it can dominate and bully all of us, I think we lose what has been achieved over many decades. So multilateralism is something all of us must fight for. It's countries such as China, such as India, that have that power, that weight, that should actually lead the way along with other progressive countries and ensure we do not lose track with the multilateralism that we've achieved in the 21st century.
And I think we heard our External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, speak in his very eloquent address this morning that India would not only remain committed, but also remain a bit of a standard bearer for the voices of the South, and it's something that has been a lasting commitment of India. But Minister, you're also going to soon take over as the chair of the African Union, and from India's perspective, this is going to be a very important year, because we are looking at the India-Africa Forum Summit later in the year, which you would be co-chairing from the AU side. How do you see the India-Africa initiatives? How have they evolved, and what would you say are your priorities, not just as the South African Foreign Minister, but also as the AU chair for the summit?
Well, we're very honored and privileged as South Africa to be coming into this opportunity of being chair of the African Union for 2020. There are several summits that the African Union has with different countries in the world, and India is among the more important. We have a very solid partnership and international collaboration, not just with South Africa, but many African countries with India. Prime Minister Modi has made it his key objective to ensure that the links between Africa and India are strengthened. And I believe that he and the heads of states of Africa have taken very seriously the use of this summit, this coming together, to define a very clear agenda on trade, on infrastructure development, and on human resource development. These form the key elements of this relationship. And I think what we have all attempted to do is bring these to concrete realization, because they're very important for us as Africa to ensure that we act on them, that more young people enjoy educational opportunity, that we have better infrastructure on the continent, and that we partner with countries such as India, who won't only seek a profit, but would also be interested in ensuring that there's broad inclusive development on the continent. So I think as we prepare toward the summit, we are going to be looking very, very carefully at the outcomes of the last summit, which was held here in India. We're hoping that the next one will be on the African continent, because that had been the agreement. And I think with this one of 2020, the core focal area will be an evaluation and assessment of how far we've gone and what more we need to do to realize the outcomes all of us desire.
And this is something that our minister is also following up personally too.
Absolutely.
And it's something that I think a point that he made very forcefully in one response to one of the questions this morning, that India used to have a reputation of being long on speech but short on delivery, and we are making up for that now, and we are actually over delivering on some of the areas. Minister, two of those areas that you have personally been closely involved in your previous portfolios have been education and science and technology. In India, we now have companies that can be considered leaders in terms of bringing technology to education, in terms of developing the smart classroom, in terms of using animations and 3D graphics and others to make it easier for kids to grasp the concepts of physics or biology or math and so on. Do you see this as an area in which we could do more together?
Well, certainly part of the time I'm going to spend in India will be in the joint ministerial commission that we have, in which several sectors of Indian government as well as South African government are represented. One of the sectors is education, and so we will be discussing a new set of joint programs that we will undertake with the partnership of the Government of India. We launched a wonderful vocational skills center in the name of Nelson Mandela and Mahatma Gandhi in Pretoria in South Africa. The center is currently under construction and should be launched at the end of March. So our education collaboration is very, very strong. And of course in science, we're doing some absolutely wonderful work. I was particularly impressed by the steps India has taken to expand and enhance social innovation.
Absolutely.
And it's a practice that we are copying. In South Africa, we've now established a dedicated fund in science and technology for supporting grassroots innovation. And we're working with persons such as Professor Anil Gupta here in India, who's working with our team in South Africa to develop the programs around that. In the biotechnology space, we work very closely together. And of course, India has gone a very long way in innovation and scientific development in what we might call indigenous innovation, and particularly the use of indigenous technologies and solutions. So we are drawing on India's experience and building capacity in this area as well.
And we've been putting a lot of focus on startups, and the Startup India movement has really taken off. I think we're now the world's third largest startup destination, or sometimes they even say second largest, depending on how you count it. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of conversations happening in those new areas. It's something that I, in my new charge as the director for the Center for New Economic Diplomacy in ORF, I plan to give a special emphasis on some of those.
We'd welcome your advice, because our President Ramaphosa is very keen on ensuring that young people enjoy opportunity, and we believe incubator hubs and startups are the way to go. So a new enterprise formation fund will be established, and we're working with the public and private sector together to establish centers where young people will receive training and support in order to ensure that their startups are successful.
Brilliant.
So that may be another area in which we can collaborate.
Minister, this year you're also celebrating 140 years of the arrival of the Indian community on the shores of Natal. And many of those came as indentured labor brought in by the British. Others came as small-time traders to serve the needs of those who came as indentured labor and others. And yet today we find that the first Mandela cabinet, for example, had 4 or 5 ministers of Indian descent. You see them at key positions in different walks of life. How would you speak about the Indian community in South Africa and its contribution to the country?
Well, our Indian community is the largest Indian community outside India in the world.
Absolutely.
Actually. And I think many people don't know that. The people who were originally from India and who are now South African fully made an amazing contribution to our fight for freedom. Dr. Yusuf Dadu is very well known.
Ahmed Kathrada, Amina Kachalia, Mac Maharaj.
So many, Pravin Gordon, our current Minister of Public Enterprises. And so many stalwarts and veterans who really played a key role in ensuring that we achieve our freedom. My own grandfather-in-law was from India, my husband's grandfather. So there are huge links between South Africans and the people of India, and India stands as a very important partner and friend to our country.
Minister, I know we're running short of time, but a conversation between India and South Africa can't be complete without cricket. Your team has been much loved, admired, feared at different points of time.
Yeah, we wish
What's gone wrong?
We wish they could be feared more. Well, we're working hard to improve the performance of our national team, and I think we now have a new coach as well as a new management team that is supporting the Proteas. So we're hoping we're going to see improved performance. We thought we were going to beat England, actually, and it was just at the edge. I think we couldn't maintain the rugby record sufficiently. But we hope to get back.
They have many friends and admirers in India.
As India does in South Africa.
Minister, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. It's been lovely.